Have you ever noticed a painful pattern? You meet someone new, and it feels different. You think, this time will be better. But slowly, it becomes familiar. The same disappointment, the same imbalance, the same feeling of being taken for granted. And eventually you ask, why do I keep attracting the wrong people? But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't attract people based on what you want. You attract people based on what you tolerate. You don't attract the wrong people. You accept them. Every relationship has an invisible agreement, not the one you talk about, the one you live. If you constantly overgive, people learn you'll overgive. If you forgive without change, people learn consequences are optional. If you stay silent when you're hurt, people learn your feelings come last. And none of this happens because you're weak. It often happens because you're good. You're empathetic, patient, understanding. But empathy without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. Kindness without boundaries becomes permission. For many people, boundaries feel like conflict. And conflict feels like danger. So instead of saying, that doesn't work for me, they say, it's fine. But it's not fine. It's just familiar. Sometimes you learned early that being loved meant being easy, being agreeable, being low maintenance. So you become someone who can survive anything, except being alone. And that fear makes you accept what you shouldn't. When you fear being alone, you'll accept being mistreated. Here's the philosophy. Self-respect is not arrogance. It's alignment. It's the decision to live as if your life matters. Because the moment you respect yourself, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop trying to earn basic decency. You stop explaining why you deserve to be treated well. You simply require it. And the wrong people hate this, because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. The right people won't be offended by your boundaries. The wrong people will. Patterns repeat for one reason. They're familiar, even when they hurt. If you grew up around inconsistency, you might confuse inconsistency with love. If you grew up earning approval, you might confuse effort with connection. So you chase, you prove, you over-explain, and deep down, you hope. If I just love them harder, they'll finally treat me right. But love doesn't fix a lack of character. Love doesn't create accountability. And love without standards becomes a slow loss of self. You can't love someone into respecting you. So what do? You stop asking, how do I get them to choose me? And you start asking, do I choose them? Do they respect you? Do they show effort without you begging? Do you feel safe or constantly anxious? Because boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They don't keep love out. They keep the wrong love out. Boundaries don't push people away. They reveal who was using you. Maybe the lesson isn't that you're unlucky in love. Maybe the lesson is that you're becoming someone who no longer accepts less. Because the moment you stop tolerating the wrong people, you make space for the right ones. Your standards aren't too high. Your self-respect is just waking up. And here's what happens when your self-respect wakes up. At first, it feels lonely. Not because you made the wrong decision, but because you removed the people who benefited from the old version of you. The version that explained too much. The version that forgave too fast. The version that stayed silent to keep the peace. When you stop being that person, some people don't adjust. They leave. Or they try to pull you back. They call you cold. They call you selfish. They say you've changed. But that's not an insult. That's the point. When you set boundaries, the people who used you will call it cruelty. Guilt is one of the biggest reasons people fail to keep boundaries. Because guilt feels like you did something wrong. But guilt often appears for a different reason. You're doing something new. If you spent years being the nice one, the easy one, the understanding one, then choosing yourself will feel unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels like danger. So your nervous system sends guilt. Not because you're wrong, but because you're changing. Guilt isn't proof you're wrong. It's proof you're unlearning. Almost always, after you set a boundary, you'll be tested. Not in a dramatic way, in small ways. They'll forget. They'll push a little. They'll make a joke. They'll do the thing again, just slightly. Because some people only respect boundaries they can't break. So your job isn't to explain the boundary again. Your job is to enforce it. Because boundaries are not words. They're actions. A boundary you don't enforce isn't a boundary. It's a request. Here's a question that changes your life. What does a healthy connection feel like? It feels calm, not confusing. It feels consistent, not intense and then distant. It feels safe, not like you're walking on eggshells. Healthy love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't punish you for needing basic respect. It doesn't require you to shrink your needs to be tolerated. If you constantly feel anxious in a relationship, that's not chemistry. That's your nervous system noticing instability. Peace is a sign of health. Anxiety is a sign of imbalance. Now here's the part people don't expect. The goal isn't to become harsh. The goal is to become clear. Clear about your standards. Clear about your needs. Clear about what you will and won't tolerate. Because clarity attracts clarity. And when you stop sending the signal that you'll accept anything, the wrong people lose interest. Not because you became unlovable, but because you became unavailable for disrespect. And that is powerful. You don't need to be harder. You need to be clearer. So if you keep attracting the wrong people, don't only ask what's wrong with them, ask what you've been allowing. Ask where you've been betraying yourself to keep someone close. Ask where you've been trading your peace for company. Because the moment you choose self-respect, your entire relationship life changes. Not instantly, but permanently. Because you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. The right people won't require you to abandon yourself.